Hey everyone, David here, welcome back to BrickVault, and today we have something a little different in the studio. This is the construction bundle by Viman, hopefully I pronounced that right. It's about time we add more regular city-inspired builds to the store, and I couldn't imagine anyone more fitting for the job than Viman. They are experts when it comes to highly detailed and accurate city vehicles, as you can see, and in no way, shape or form are they comparable to actual LEGO city sets. From left to right we have the Hitachi ZW180PL wheel loader, the Case CX145D SR excavator, the MAN LE 4x4 tipper truck, the Viman 1770 CX mini loader, and these two are the Bobcat S450 skid steer loader and Bobcat E14 mini excavator. That was a mouthful. Anyways, if you see anything here that interests you, you can find the instructions to the whole bundle or the individual builds on our web store www.brickvault.toys. The instructions also come with a parts list, so you can get all necessary parts to these builds for yourself or search through your own collection of pieces. I'm sure especially for these smaller builds, at least most of the pieces are in 90% of the miscellaneous LEGO parts bins out there. And if not, Bricklink is here to help. Just visit brickvault.toys or click the link in the video description, and let's get back to the work. Back to the construction side, to be a little more specific. I'm not sure how you feel, but at least I myself always really liked LEGO city sets, but at a later date the building process just didn't scratch the right itch anymore, and I always wished that these sets were a little trickier and had cooler techniques. I totally get that they are made to be easily buildable by kids, but that's where Viman comes into place and scratches that itch with their incredibly accurate and minifig scale construction vehicles. But let's take a look at them one by one, starting with the smallest one. This is the Bobcat E14 mini excavator, and as you can see, it's indeed quite mini. It only has 130 pieces, but used to good effect. The arm has some hydraulic detailing and is actually also able to be posed in 3 locations. I'm also a really big fan of how the side looks. Something about the round tiling just looks so satisfying. The whole machine sits on tracks and can be rotated 360 degrees, which is really nice, and the tracks are actually able to move if you're not on a smooth surface. They're attached fairly loosely on there, so you want to be a little careful while playing around with it, but generally I don't see any issues playing with this thing. It's a small build, so naturally some of the connections are just one stud connections, and you shouldn't handle it too roughly, but everything that can pop off can also easily be popped back on, and I myself at least had a blast playing around with it. Oh, and of course it can also seat a minifig in the greenhouse. He has 4 levers in there for controlling it, which is actually accurate. Let's move on to the next small build, the Bobcat S450 skid steer loader. This is from the same manufacturer in real life, and I like that it also has the same color. This looks a little more rough and heavy duty. The wheels are able to turn and the bucket can be raised and lowered. I like that Viman also put some play features in these, although most of them are intended to be for display only. But again, with this one I see even less problems playing with it or handling it a little more rough, since there are even less protruding details on it that can fall off. There's also space for a minifig, and this build has almost the exact same amount of pieces, being 133 compared to the 130 of the excavator. Moving on, now we get a little more color with the Viman 1770 CX mini loader. This looks super cool to me in this red color. We have a seat for the driver and a steering wheel that can be adjusted a bit. Next to the seat we have a couple of exhaust pipes, I believe, and this model is also able to be rolled around and even steered, since it has a joint in the middle. The bucket can be raised and lowered as well. I like the small bar piece to represent the hydraulic detailing, and this one actually also includes a second attachment for the front to move around pallets or maybe bales of straw. It's easy to swap around the attachments, and this build again has almost the exact amount of pieces at 127 and is super playable and sturdy at this size. Now we excavated some stuff, but how do we transport it? That's where the MAN LE 4x4 tipper truck comes into play. This truck has just shy of 300 pieces and is made for heavy duty transportation. Of course, this truck can also be rolled around. I don't know if this makes sense at all, but you can actually also transport one of the smaller vehicles in its bed, which is a cool thing. The bed can be angled and you even have a working hydraulic lift arm beneath the bed, which looks so cool. I especially like how the fenders are done. I really like how they surround the wheels. We also have a ton of details on the sides, storage and fluid containers and all that stuff. Now, it is also possible to open up, although not specifically intended, but this is the first instance of it being a little trickier to put a driver in it, but it is possible somehow. Oh, and I gotta mention how cool it is how Thietmeier did the door handles. So simple yet so effective. This is also really playable, and thanks to its shape and construction, you don't have to worry about it too much, as you can see by me handling it a little rough here. You've started digging up your backyard now with all the machinery, but you now decide you want an in-ground pool instead of a small garden pond. What do you do now? You get yourself one of these bad boys. This is the Case CX145D SR excavator and has 487 pieces. I think this is my personal favorite of the bunch, especially with all the hydraulic pipe detailing and all the cables and hoses. It looks so cool. The arm is technically able to be moved up and down, although it's a little tricky to do, and I wouldn't recommend it since pieces can pop off here easily. This one's also a little trickier to put a driver minifig into. Again, I think it's possible for display especially, but it doesn't stud in. It has so many cool details however, so I can excuse that lag in playability easily. It has 2 tracks on each side, which are also technically able to be rolled around, and the ram in the front is able to be moved up and down a bit. The cabin section is only connected with one stud. It's possible to rotate it around fully, but that also means that you want to be a little extra careful while handling. A one stud connection is not necessarily enough to pick it up just by the cabin, so make sure to handle it with care. Now at the end of your work you gotta clean up the mess you made with the Hitachi ZW180PL wheel loader here in full orange and grey. Now this looks super heavy duty and the big hydraulics makes it look like it has a ton of power. The bucket also is technically able to be moved up and down, but that's also not very convenient to do. But if, let's say, you wanted to display it in a construction mock, you can make it look like it's carrying some dirt around. The whole vehicle is hinged in the middle and the wheels do turn as well. I'm a big fan of how Thietmeier created the steps up to the compartment with those 1x2 grill pieces. And speaking of, this is also an instance where it's not specifically made to fit a minifig inside. I think it works best if you take off the legs, then it should fit just fine. That's the compromise you have to make to get a 100% minifig scale model, because minifigs themselves aren't even 100% minifig scale because of them being much wider than they are tall. Anyways, this model has 448 pieces and the building experience was nice, although not too tricky. I'd say the perfect middle ground if city sets are just too easy and boring for you, but you also don't want to scream at your Lego during the building process. This model can also be handled a little more roughly. I'd say it's almost as rugged as it looks, so you're good on that part. So that's the construction bundle for you. Bob the Builder would be proud of this collection, and so am I. I think Thietmeier did an excellent job recreating these work machines in Lego, and if you want to recreate them yourself too, make sure to check out the instructions and parts lists on BrickVault.toys, or just scroll down a bit until you see a few links in the video description. Those take you directly to the builds, where you can also download the parts list first to check the prices for the pieces before you make the purchase. If you're a fan of today's models, keep your eyes peeled for next week's release. If you've watched until now, thank you for watching. Please consider to like if you enjoyed this video, or even subscribe if you don't want to miss next week's release and other exciting content on this channel. And we'll see you next time at BrickVault.